Hello, welcome back. The 12-day UN Climate Change Conference in Doha, Qatar, has entered its second day. Negotiators there will be trying to complete some of the work that was initiated at past conferences, especially the progress made at Bali and Durban. The talks will also work out detailed arrangements for the second commitment period of the Kyoto Protocol. Well, CCTV's Special Affairs correspondent Roee Ruttenberg is in Doha. Let's go to him now for a little more. Roee, please bring us up to date. We know that an extension of Kyoto is topping that agenda. What more can you tell us?
Indeed, the discussions haven't begun yet. This is the second day, as you've just mentioned, and most of what we've seen so far has been plenary sessions, people laying out the agenda for this conference. We heard from the Executive Secretary of the UN Framework for Climate Change, UNFCCC, the Convention on Climate Change, discussing that today's issue, for example, is women and climate change, gender and climate change. So lots of different issues here, but of course, an extension, a second phase of Kyoto, one of the top agendas here. Many of the parties concerned, especially many of the countries representing the LDCs or least developed countries, concerned that some of the larger, wealthier nations are not signing up for an extension of Kyoto. Now, it was first signed in 2005, that protocol, one of the most famous treaties on dealing with climate change, signed in 2005. The wealthy countries that signed on were what's known as Annex 1, and that committed them to targeting certain carbon emission reductions. Some of those targets haven't been met. That expires in just 1 month time at the end of this year in December, and many were hoping for a second phase. What we've already heard from a small number of the wealthier countries indicating that they're not going to sign on again, and that's really causing some concern here. That will, of course, be one of the key issues involved in the negotiations.
Okay, well, we do understand that one of the key sticking points here is financing the fight against climate change. How are the participants there dealing with that?
Absolutely. Even if everybody agrees on the topic of climate change, how do you actually fund it? How do you fund the fight against preventing additional climate change? And much of that fund is needed to help fight the smaller, poorer countries which are trying to crack down on the mitigating effects of carbon emissions. And what the general rule has been in the past years has been for the wealthier countries to fund that, the argument being that they have a larger share historically of the production levels, the output that caused climate change, according to scientists, and therefore they have to share a larger burden. We've seen, I just spoke with the EU negotiator, the chief negotiator for the European Union, who's told me that one of the key sticking points will be getting the US and China on board, two of the largest emitters of carbon gas, and hoping to make sure that they're signed on for Kyoto. That is not entirely guaranteed at the end of this summit, which ends in about 10 days' time, but they make up a large portion. He basically told me without them, effectively, much of this is pointless.
Roee, thank you for that. Roee Ruttenberg there in Doha.